This is OwlUp, where learning happens in minutes, not hours. For a deeper journey, explore all our courses at owlup.co. Now, let's dive in. Welcome to Chapter 1 of our series, Whispers of Sound, Secrets Behind Famous Tracks. In this episode, titled The Beatles' Hidden Messages, we'll explore the intriguing rumors surrounding some of the Beatles' most iconic songs and uncover the hidden meanings that fans have speculated about for decades. So, let's dive in. John Lennon once said the Beatles put as much as we could cram into their records. Now, picture a fan in a dark dorm room, spinning a vinyl backward, swearing they hear, "Turn me on, dead man." Is it a real message? Or proof our brains hate leaving silence unexplained? Lennon also joked that some hidden messages were really just gobbledygook fans insisted on decoding. Yet, the Beatles weren't innocent bystanders. They were pushing studio technology so far beyond its original purpose that weird artifacts, half-heard words, and chopped-up tape became part of the songwriting toolkit. The studio stopped being a neutral recorder and turned into a mischievous band member, splicing, echoing, and warping sounds into something nobody had a name for yet. Producer George Martin and engineer Jeff Emmerich treated faders and tape reels like levers in a mad inventor's lab, running vocals through rotating speakers, slowing pianos until they sounded like cellos, and bouncing tracks so many times that ghosts of earlier takes bled through. Out of that chaos came the perfect breeding ground for myths. A few intentional tricks buried in a jungle of glorious accidents. And once the myths took hold, the record stopped being just music and turned into puzzles. Fans treated every murmur, chair squeak, and count-in like a hidden clue from a secret society. The band didn't exactly discourage it. They slipped in fragments of chatter, strange laughs, fragments of other songs, even fake endings that snapped back to life. You weren't just listening, you were decoding. That shift, songs as interactive mysteries, helped blur the line between artist and audience. The Beatles built the house, but listeners started hunting for trapdoors, convinced each creak in the floorboards meant something profound. Some of the clearest, hidden messages weren't mystical at all. They were practical jokes with very specific punchlines. On Sgt. Pepper, the run-out groove babble and the high-pitched dog whistle at the end weren't clues about death. They were a wink to fans and a literal noise only pets would really notice. I Am the Walrus stitches in a live BBC radio performance of King Lear, not because Shakespeare held a cosmic secret, but because Lennon liked how the random dialogue collided with his nonsense lyrics. These are less like coded prophecies and more like graffiti in the margins. You're supposed to find them eventually. Other moments that later fueled conspiracies began as creative shortcuts. Snatches of studio chatter left just loud enough to catch. Paul's muffled asides, Lennon's off-mic jokes, were partly about preserving a human feel on increasingly constructed records. When listeners froze those half-sentences in place and replayed them obsessively, they turned throwaway remarks into supposed confessions. The more fans hunted, the more each tiny irregularity felt intentional. Psychologists call this pattern hunger. Once your brain decides there must be a story, it starts connecting dots that were never meant to meet. A blurry shape in the pond becomes a sea monster. A garbled chord change becomes, "I buried Paul." The band watched this happen in real time. By the late 60s, the more they experimented, the more journalists and fans treated every experiment as evidence of an underlying plot. Yet, the Beatles did occasionally lean into the game. Titles like Glass Onion openly tease people for reading too much, while still tossing them references to earlier songs, as if daring, "Go on then, decode this." It's the same tension you see in modern internet culture. Creators bury Easter eggs because it's fun, then watch as entire subreddits spiral into overanalysis. One deliberate secret invites 10 imagined ones. In that sense, Beatles records started to resemble a sprawling software project. A few carefully planted features, lots of messy legacy code, and users convinced every glitch hides a master plan. The way Beatles messages spread looks a lot like how rumors travel online now. One late-night DJ in 1969 half-seriously strings together odd lyrics, a strange album cover pose, and a fragment of mumbled chatter. Within weeks, letters flood stations, college kids hold listening parties, and mainstream papers treat the Paul is dead theory as a cultural event. Nobody at EMI planned a campaign. Yet the network of fans acted as an unpaid marketing department, stress-testing every scrap of sound for meaning. Charles Manson's reading of Helter Skelter shows the darker edge of this. Pull a song out of its context, project your fears onto it, and suddenly an energetic rock track becomes evidence of an apocalypse only you can hear. In that sense, each record sleeve and lyric sheet function like an open-source repository. The band pushed out a version, and the world forked their intentions into conspiracy, prophecy, or satire, depending on what listeners brought to the music. Hidden message culture isn't going away, it's mutating. As stems, demos, and AI-peeled tracks circulate, fans gain forensic access to every cough and count-in, while artists can plant subtler games, cryptic harmonies, coded release dates, ARG-style rollouts across platforms. Expect fandoms to treat albums like living puzzles that update over time, more like seasonal content in games than fixed artifacts. That raises fresh questions. When does playful decoding tip into harassment or rewrite an artist's intent entirely? The next time you hear a hidden message, try treating it less like a courtroom exhibit and more like cloud watching. Notice what shape you give it. Are you hearing fear, hope, mischief? In that gap between what's pressed into the groove and what your brain paints over it, you're not just decoding the Beatles, you're co-writing the story. Before next week, ask yourself, if I re-listened to one Beatles song I thought I already knew, like Strawberry Fields Forever or A Day in the Life, what layers or hidden meanings might I notice now that I've heard this episode? As you listen, ask, what specific production choices, backwards tape, odd sound effects, double meanings in lyrics, change how I feel about the song once I'm actually listening for them? Finally, wonder, if the Beatles used hidden messages to speak to different audiences at once, what's one message I might be sending in my own life, in emails, social posts, conversations, that could benefit from being clearer or more playfully layered? This was OwlUp, your daily step forward. To keep learning with structured courses and more insights, go to owlup.co. Until tomorrow!